PETA has a dirty little secret, and actually they have several. We'll just talk about the one, and the one is that they have a shelter that they take in dogs and cats. And in 2011, they euthanized 97% of the animals that came in. And that's huge. That is a huge number for even a municipal pound. 97% of all animals coming in are put down. Now, PETA is I've always thought that this organization was just terrible. Anybody that advocates terrorism, I'm sorry, but they lack credibility. Destruction of public or private property. It doesn't matter, if it's well-meaning or whatever. You're destroying people's property and advocating that. Anyway, let's go back to the shelter. So the shelter is a huge problem, and this has been an ongoing problem for years. And people in my line of work have known about this, and PETA does everything it can to make sure that people don't know this. And originally, it started getting leaked out because some of the people working there were like, it's a bloodbath, right? So it started getting leaked out about a little bit over 10 years ago. And the numbers are a public record, and you can check these. Now, in 2011, they had almost 3,000 animals come in, and 97% of them were put down. And there's similar numbers for every year. In 2010, I believe it was 95 or 96% of the animals were euthanized. And it's okay for a shelter to euthanize animals. There is a problem in this country, and there are ethical kill shelters, and there's ethical non-kill shelters, and there's unethical, non-kill shelters, and there's unethical kill shelters. But PETA calling themselves having a non-kill shelter and putting down 97%, it lacks credibility once more. And just because you use the term, put the term ethical, in your name, doesn't mean that that's what you are. Now, the bigger problem with dogs is that most of the reason that dogs go to a shelter is because of lack of training or improper training. And improper training would be food training. And positive reinforcement food training is totally unethical to do with dogs. It doesn't work. You can train a dog to jump through a hoop or do an agility course using this, but the problem is, and that's what they cite, they're like, the food trainers will be like, look, my dog got a blue ribbon in an agility course, but the dog's not good around people. That's the problem. B.F. Skinner's work was about both positive and negative, and the food trainers just use the positive portion and cite science as, look, we can train animals with this purely positive way, and so anything else would be cruel. And PETA will say that what I do is cruel, and other obedience trainers were cruel, but it seems a little bit... 97% of the dogs are dying down there that go in their shelter. And what happens here when those dogs come in, they have an intake, and they're evaluated by trainers that work on the premises. And those trainers are positive reinforcement food style trainers. So the problem is that if you contact a positive reinforcement trainer with a problem with your dog, they can't help you, right? And many of them know their limitations and just tell you flat out, like in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, there's somebody that is sort of ethical as a food trainer, meaning she knows her limitations, and that would be Empire of the Dog. She will flat out tell you, we don't deal with those type of issues. And if you want to go to Yelp, if you think I'm lying, there's reviews there by people that have said, yeah, she couldn't help us, right? So that's sort of ethical to say, like, look, we can't do that. We should just teach your dog how to do some parlor tricks, you know? But it's not helpful to any dog to learn a parlor trick. Dogs are pack animals, so it's very important that leadership is considered. If you don't do that, you end up with all kinds of problems. So sending a dog that's already in a state, you know, like let's say aggression, which is very common. It's a common problem with dogs is aggression. It's an undesirable behavior, but it's a common behavior. So if you send your dog, you give your big donation to PETA thinking, oh, well, they're going to save my dog at this, it's called like the Last Chance Shelter or something. It should be called the death camp. They're not going to help you, and that's the problem, is that the people on staff there are food trainers. They're positive reinforcement food trainers, and they're not equipped to help dogs with issues. So those are dogs that they can't do rehabilitation on. In other words, they can't do rehabilitation on any dog with any problem. So they just put them down at PETA. It's terrible. This is an organization that no one should give money to. They're like the food trainers in that they preach about what is ethical and what is humane, but their methods don't work, and they're totally unethical. The food trainers are the ones that really make me sick, as much as PETA, in that if you talk to them, they will cite examples of, they'll use the training of sea mammals in theme parks as like a humane way to train an animal. And it's absurd because you're keeping a very large animal in a small swimming pool. It's not humane. It's not humane, and it doesn't work for orcas like it doesn't work for dogs. You condition them to be excited, and they don't respect who's feeding them. You're just a resource for snacks. That's it. And when they get excited, the orcas will pull the trainers down to the bottom of the pool and kill them. And it's happened so many times since SeaWorld's inception in 1968 and all of the other theme parks throughout the world. This has happened repeatedly. So, PETA, you know, really, you have ethical problems here. If you want to help the dogs, then you hire obedience trainers to go in there and fix the problem. Me as an obedience trainer, I have never run across a dog that can't be helped. This is true. And the percentage of dogs that have a genetic disorder would be less than 1%. I've never met one. And I know many other obedience trainers, they say the same thing. That seizure disorder that a dog might have is very rare. One out of 100,000. If you have one of those dogs, give it to Cornell so they can study it. It's extremely rare. So most dogs can be helped, but they can't be helped by positive reinforcement food trainers, and they can't be helped by PETA. So remember, if you want your dog to live in our society, this human society, you must teach it no. And if you're having problems with your dog, it's probably because you haven't taught the dog no and taught the dog the difference between what is right and what is wrong. Call an obedience trainer. We can help you. PETA cannot help you. They'll just kill your animal. It is not a last chance. If you're sending your dog to PETA with a huge donation, be prepared. You're going to get a letter in the mail that says, oh, we tried everything, but we can't help the dog, so we put it down. 97%. Oh, and one other thing. Norfolk, Virginia, PETA has a real problem because Norfolk, Virginia is going to turn all the shelters in that area into non-kill shelters. It'll be against the law for them to euthanize animals. They will have to either foster them or do something with them. So PETA is not going to have too much choice. They'll have to do something. And my guess is that they will move their operations someplace else where they can keep killing. Because it's been this way for years. PETA just puts animals down right and left under the guise of being ethical. There is nothing ethical about it. Train your dog. to understand that its position is right or wrong. You use positive and negative reinforcement. Then you truly have the B.F. Skinner dog. But just using positive, all positive, does not work. Be prepared. You will have a huge problem on your hands. Do not train with food. Never train with food. It's unnecessary. Now I'm a much better actor than Lassie was. Lassie phoned it in. Lassie sucked.